Hello everyone, welcome to the Hangout. We have a nice crowd here today, which is awesome. All of my favorite people from Patreon. And I'll see if I can say who's here. Hold on a second. Christine's here, Anne's here, both Lisas are here, Benny is here, Martin's here, Molly's here, Gretchen's here. Did I say Anne already? I'm not sure. Have I got everybody? If I didn't get you, I'm really sorry. Christine, did I say you? Oh, you can see and hear me. Good, because last time when Benny and I, hi Benny, Benny was my call-in, last call-in, the live call-in. He was great. We had so much fun, and everybody loved you, Benny. They really did. The start of it was really quiet because I turned down, we had this problem with the sound, so I turned down, I think it was the mic, and then I was too quiet, and I turned it up, and then there was a stupid hum through the whole show. So I'm going to do a whole, I'm going to have to do a thing with my son, and I'm going to have him call me, and then we're going to have to do lots of adjustments because something went wrong, and I can't figure it out. So, hey, K-Rab, you're here too. Fantastic. Okay, let me get this off. Okay, and by the way, if you are new to the show and you'd like to join in the live chat room, please go to Patreon below, click. Just joining for a very small amount of money per month does help support the channel and gives you access to all the live shows. I have 6 lives a month on cases. I have 4 live hangouts and 2 live call-ins at the moment. So, and a lot of fun in the chat room. We have a Patreon chat room now also. I put it up every Monday now, and everybody's kind of getting in and being able to talk to each other. So, if you notice, everyone in the chat room seems to be friendly. It's because they've gotten to know each other, and it makes for a really nice community. So you're all great. All right. So, and just before I start, just in case I look really sad, just before the show happened, I heard my door open to my house. I live right next door to my daughter. I mean, like, houses are next to each other. And I heard the door open and close. And usually that means something like, oh, my daughter left me a little piece of cake or a candy or some flowers. And then I walked out, and there's a half wall goes up to the door, and that's where she leaves the thing, right? She opens the door, puts it right there. But I looked over and it was flat. I'm like, oh no. Sure enough, this is what was lying on the flat wall. And you know, if you're from the US, you know what this means. It's called the IRS. And I opened it up because I've been good and paid all my taxes and done everything right. And I'm like, you want $2,000 more dollars? Are you kidding me? $2,000 they claimed I never paid. So anyway, so now I'm going to find the evidence that proves I paid it, or I'm screwed out of $2,000, because it's almost impossible to fight the IRS. When they say you owe something, and you can fight them sometimes, and you end up paying it anyway. So that sucks. So anyway, my day's not going well. How about you? Oh my God. K-Rab says, no, the IRS is horrible. Oh my God. I mean, I have actually had a notice from the IRS that said, you owe $300 from 2010. And I'm like, what? Well, I can't even find that information. I'm not going to go through all that information. And I think they know that. And so, you just pay it. So, because it's just horrible. Wait, Lisa says she wants her own greeting. That's funny. Because there's Lisa N and there's Lisa S. And hi, Lisa S. Hi, Lisa N. No, we're not the Lisas. Oh, and Lisa S., you did say, which I think is cool, that we're all, wait, what was the word you used for it? I thought it was cool. Wait a minute, I gotta find it now because it's way up here somewhere. Almost profilers. You are, because one of the great things about this community is that there are people here who actually like learning and aren't just here to be obnoxious. I just blocked somebody off of YouTube for that, because she came in and she's like, oh, I think this is a really great case, and I like your opinion, but, and then she goes on to say what's wrong about it over and over and over. And I tried to explain certain things to her, and she wouldn't stop. So I said, hey, this is an educational channel, not a place to fight for every detail of this case because you believe it's one way. And then she came in and she wrote a diatribe like this long about how horrible person I was, basically. And so I'm like, oh, bye. So this group isn't like that. This is a group that actually does want to learn. And yes, it's fun when you're thinking and you're offering opinions. Benny did that really great when he called in. He's like, what about this? And he's got his ideas on things. And that's fabulous. The difference about some people, some of the people on YouTube, is they're just there for their agenda. They're not there to actually learn and actually understand things. They're just there to, well, I think there's a game called Beat the Profiler. Beat Bobby Flay is a great game. But this, I didn't put up a game called Beat the Profiler, but apparently some people really want to beat the profile. So anyway, but I try to smile and block you out, so I don't have to put up with you. Okay, so what am I going to talk about today? Oh my God, there's just so many things. But I'm going to start with this, which I didn't even list. Texas court orders a stay of execution for Melissa, and I don't know her last name. It's either Lucio or Lucio, to review the case. Now, she was accused of killing her daughter, who supposedly, she claimed, fell down the stairs, and she was found guilty of murder, and now they have stayed the execution. Somebody asked me to look into this case, and I really want to do it. I want to analyze whether the Innocence Project is maybe right for once, like a clock that doesn't work, or, is she guilty? And I cannot find any information on the case that doesn't come from them. I look for appeals, because appeals are a great place where, they're appealing something, and then you get to hear the prosecution side, which they're trying to hide. So anybody here who can find the information about the original information on Melissa, whether it be from the police reports or autopsy or the appeals, please do link them in so I can so I can actually analyze the case, because I can't find it. The Innocence Project is very huge, connected to the media, so a lot of times you have to go through pages and pages and pages of Google to try to get to anything else. But I've gone through like a dozen or even more pages, and I can't come up with anything that tells me the original story, tells me what the prosecution thinks, because I want to hear what the evidence is, and then maybe I will agree with the Innocence Project. I mean, occasionally I have, but I want to know, are you just trying to keep her from the death penalty because she's truly innocent, or are you just trying to, get rid of the death penalty, which is their biggie, you know what I mean? So anyway, I thought that was just an interesting thing. The other thing I want to point out is a happy thing, which is, that little boy, there was a 3-month-old baby that was kidnapped, and it was kind of let me find it here. Hold on a second, where'd he go? Okay, he's gone missing on me. I hate it when that happens. Okay, where did he go? Oh yeah, no, that's not it. Okay, I lost it. Anyway, there's a 3-year-old, the grandmother she had come in the house with a baby, and she put the baby down, the 3-month-old baby, and then she went back out. And then she went back in, and by the time she came back in, she went back out to get groceries out of the car. And when she came back in, the baby was gone. And there was a video showing this guy carrying the baby down the street in a carrier. It wasn't their carrier, mind you. It was another carrier. He brought a carrier to take the baby away in. So the question is, when I looked at this case originally, I'm like, what happened here? It turned out the mother was in that, I think she was either in the home or vicinity. I can't remember if it was her home or not. But the father was in prison, so they said, it wasn't the daddy that did this. He could have asked a friend to go swipe the kid, but apparently they're just saying the father's not involved. So then the question came to be, who would be able to get into the house? Who would even know about this baby? Be staked out there to kidnap a baby? Who would bring an actual carrier with them? And so my first thought was, whoever did it has to know the grandmother. In other words, they have to know her behaviors. They have to be involved in some way. And if you're going to bring a baby carrier, you're probably what I would think behind this is usually what's behind when somebody takes a child. It has to be a young child. It has to be somebody small enough where you can pass that baby off as your own. So you think if you can get that baby and hide it for a long time, then you can reappear. It's usually a female, almost always a female, and she can then reappear someplace with this baby and say, "Look, I was pregnant, and look what happened." That kind of thing. And it does turn out the grandmother knew this woman, I believe it was from church, and she became obsessed with the baby. And so she had been hanging around. And indeed, they've arrested 3 people, this woman and these 2 guys. And they brought the baby carrier, and they took it away in it. And now they've been arrested, and the little boy has been returned home, which is fabulous. But I'm trying to figure out how this woman got 2 other people to help her. It's one thing to be a whack job on your own. I know there's been some women who claim they're pregnant to like their boyfriends or whatever, their husbands, and they'll like even pretend they're pregnant. They'll stuff things up their clothes and pretend they're pregnant for almost 9 months, and then they'll go out and steal some kid, maybe out of the hospital nursery or wherever, or out of the park. They'll befriend somebody. Even worse, they'll befriend somebody, go to her house, and then kill her and take the baby out of her tummy. Bring it home and go, "Look, honey, I stopped by the hospital and had a baby." And adult husband, I always call these guys dolts who are married to women who have these kind of problems, psychopathic, Munchausen's type women. And he's like, "Oh, cool. I didn't know you'd gone into labor, honey." And she goes, "Oh, you were busy." Oh my God. So it was a good ending to a bad story, and so thank God the baby was returned. So I think that's pretty cool. So now, so that's Melissa. We talked about the lady is no longer going to be executed now. They're going to review her. Somebody's going to review everything about her because there was so much media on that. It was very, very. I think the execution couldn't go forward without a lot of bad media. Okay, that's done. A little baby got home. That's great. So there's some good news out there. I wanted to talk about, this was just a weird one. This was the case of the Steelers football quarterback, Dwayne Haskins. And people are wondering, Dwayne Haskins, what happened was, he apparently, he was coming home, and he was like, I can't get the time straight. I think it was like 6:15 in the morning. I think it was dark out is the point. Still dark. It's in, let me be sure I'm right about this. Hold on. It's Florida, right? Before I say something incorrect again. There's a lot of information, so sometimes I get confused. But from one case to the next, yes, he was walking on a Florida highway. What he did was he supposedly talked to his wife on the phone and told her his car had run out of gas. And he was going to walk to the nearest gas station, which he didn't know where it was, but okay. He was going to walk to a gas station. And he didn't make it. Like 10 minutes later, he was like run over. He was hit by like 3 vehicles, including a big, huge dump truck or trash truck. And he, got wiped out and he got killed. And it was really very, very, terribly sad. I mean, horrifying thing. And people are wondering what happened. And the police, it was pretty clear because the police had witnesses that he was not on the side of the highway, but he was walking onto the highway. People actually screamed at him and like, "Idiot!" And he got hit anyway by many, many vehicles and died. And so the question people have is, what was he doing? Why was he doing this? Because there's a number of issues that are involved here. One is, yes, he ran out of gas, and we all have been in that situation, or maybe if you're really careful, you're not. But a lot of times people aren't paying attention and they run out of gas. All right. Now, he is not a super poor dude. I'm sure he, should be able to call and get help one way or the other to get, AAA, bring me gas. And they do that. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get somebody to bring you gas. But let's say, for whatever weird reasons, you're not calling them. Now you're on the highway, and the thing about that is clearly there you have a couple options. One is to walk as far off the highway as you can, on the side, And mind you, it's Florida. It's not freezing cold. It's not like he's going into hypothermia here. He's a strong man. He's a football quarterback. I'm pretty sure he could walk down that highway for 5 or 10 miles and finally find an exit and get himself some gas. He could. He didn't. He walked into the highway like he was either crossing the highway or lost sense of where he was trying to flag somebody down, which none of this makes sense. But it looks like he crossed into the highway. Like, people do that. They're like, oh, I'm just going to run across the highway. Run across the highway with it's at least a 3-lane highway on that one side, as far as I could see. So you have trucks barreling down and cars barreling down, and it was busy because he got hit by 3 of them. So, things always look farther away than they are when they're coming at you at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. And people have bad perception of that, which is why you never run across a highway, ever. And he did. He walked into the highway and got nailed. So the question is, why did he do this? Was he just one of those people that doesn't understand distances? But he's a quarterback. I'm going to say he should know distances, exact yards, how a ball is thrown, how fast it comes. I can't believe he doesn't know that. It may be that we haven't heard whether he was like really drunk, and so he lost his perception, whether he was using any other kind of other kind of drug that would kill his perception. I don't know. We haven't found that out yet, but it leaves you with very little to think, what could have happened. And I would think most likely he was drunk, because it seemed like he was out all night maybe. So he might have been drunk and then lost his ability to perceive things correctly and make good choices. A couple people said, well, his contract went down $1 million, so he's committing suicide. I'm like, I really don't think that's a good reason. Hi, honey, I'm on my way. I just need to get some gas. Oh, man, I lost $1 million. No, I don't think it was suicide. I think it's just a really bad decision to try to cross the highway. Very, very sad, extremely. Yeah, I would think maybe drunk. Yeah, we haven't heard yet. What they didn't do was test the drivers, because none of them were at fault. The drivers that hit him couldn't do anything about it, and they had enough witnesses to prove that. So, yeah, but what he has, I don't know if they've done any testing on him yet, but it's just a really sad thing. I mean, sometimes when you, see these things happen, you're like, oh my God, how is this possible? A young man like that with his whole life in front of him, and you just do dumb stuff. And I just want to point out that dumb stuff is sometimes what confuses people when it comes down to crimes as well. People make bad choices, and suicides are often that way. People say, oh my God, my son wouldn't have committed suicide. And you're like, maybe he did, or maybe she did. And a moment of whatever, they weren't thinking straight, and they decide, oh, the hell with it. So there's a lot of that, and I just want to point that out, because I think people don't sometimes understand how that can happen. Now, speaking of that, on the other hand, there are things that happen which you have to say, this isn't an instantaneous, stupid thing you have done. Now, what I'm going to talk about here is, let me find her name. Where is it? Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. 1 minute. Let it go. All right, here we go. Okay. This is the horrific crime that just happened in Wisconsin, in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. There's a little 10-year-old girl, and she disappeared with her bicycle, and her name, they call her Lily Peters. She was 10 years old. Her real name is Iliana Peters. And she disappeared, and everybody went, oh my God, what happened to her? And then they found her body, which is pretty appalling. She suffered from blunt force trauma and strangulation, and she was sexually assaulted. And you think, oh my God, there's a serial killer out there. There's a pedophile out there of some sort. No, it was her cousin, apparently. Her 14-year-old cousin. She went over to her aunt's house, and the cousin was there and offered to walk her home. He walked her down a trail, and then he punched her in the stomach, and then he assaulted her, and then he strangled her, and then he raped her after he strangled her. Nice guy. Okay, so really nice guy. Anyway, they're not giving his name out, even though everybody knows in the area who he is. So now he's going to court and he's being tried as an adult. And some people, well, mostly lawyers, are upset about that. They're like, oh, he should be tried in juvenile court. And this is what one of the lawyers said, some law professor. And it just bugged me because, hold on a second, let me find it. All right, because he says this. Wait a minute, I gotta turn my phone. Okay. So he says that if a defendant is over 10 years old, they start out in adult court. So a lot of questions always are, when should you be tried as an adult and when should you be tried as a juvenile? So the problem there is, at what point do they have complete ability to make choices without being, so juvenile that they don't know what they're doing? Okay, that's the theory behind that. And in Wisconsin, they say it's very low. It's 10. All right. But the defendants, this guy's name is Colbert, and he says the defendant's attorneys can apply what is called a reverse waiver. Now, they will ask that this get sent back to juvenile court, that this will be the first issue the court will determine substantively. Should this case go back to juvenile court? This is the line that bugs me, would society and this particular individual be served by having this case in juvenile court? Would this individual and society be served by having this in juvenile court? Okay, let's look at this. Well, he's a sexual predator at age 14. He's a rapist at age 14, and quite frankly, he would become a serial killer at age 14, because one time and not done if you get another opportunity. To rape and murder somebody, that's a sexual homicide. That's like the lowest of the low. I can't see that society would be served by letting this guy go to juvenile court and maybe get out when he's a young adult, because he's a major psychopath. This is a violent psychopath, developed already, probably way earlier than 14, in that he's behaving like this. So society certainly is not going to be served. So I find that like annoying. And then, will the individual be served? Well, hell yeah. I'm sure that 14-year-old boy would love to go to juvenile institution and then later say, no, I realized my wrong. I've been to psychotherapy and now you should let me out. And they might let him out when he's 18 or 20 or 25 because he now has been cured. Anybody who commits a sexual homicide, this is premeditated. He actually said, I wanted to rape and murder her. His own little 10-year-old, pretty little, she's the sweetest looking little thing, his own little 10-year-old cousin. I wanted to rape and murder her. This is somebody who never needs to see the light of day ever again. All right. You're saying this. I do not know this is true, but this is interesting. The father of the 10-year-old was a convicted pedophile. Well, I don't know that makes any difference in this case, if that's true or not. Oh, no, okay, you're saying, okay, sorry, not the father of the girl, but the father of the boy, age 14. Okay, so you're saying that and I don't know that this is true. I haven't found that, but interesting point here. K-Rab says, oh, the defense will use that then, that he was abused and therefore he meted out this abuse. So yes, for the defense, if this is true, K-Rab is right, they might use it for the defense. Here is just something I want to point out. First of all, I want to say this 14-year-old needs to be tried in adult court and needs never to see the light of day. I'll say that one more time. I did. Okay. However, here is something that really concerns me as far as parents go. Let me find my book again. Oh, I actually have it here. Oh, I just knocked that up. How to Save Your Daughter's Life. And in this book, I wrote about things like risky relationships. Let's see. The early years. Oh, I have a whole thing on the early years. Like, who do you bring into your house? Mothers, do you bring home some creepy dude you just knew for 2 weeks and that creepy dude rapes your daughter? Is that what's happening? I have a lot on the early years here. Again, it's only available audio on Amazon, and I hate the woman who reads this because she sounds awful, and it's not me. Get it on eBay because that's the only place you can get like a regular copy at the moment. And it's not even on Kindle, I don't believe. Thank you, publisher. Anyway, here's what really bothers me. And I don't know all the details of this case yet. And the boy is responsible, the usual point. Don't blame the victim or the victim's parents. I certainly don't blame a 10-year-old little girl who went to her cousin's house and thought, and the aunt let the cousin go away off with her, and her own mother, father, whomever, let her go over there. What I want to point out to parents is this 14-year-old cousin, with that kind of ideation that he wants to actually rape and murder his own little cousin. This is not like, he wasn't like yesterday, the greatest kid on the block, and he woke up today and said, oh man, yesterday I just wanted to play piano. Today I want to put a piano wire around somebody's neck. No, it doesn't happen that way. This kid was disturbed for years and years and years. He had behaviors which should have been frightening and concerning to anyone around him. Because they know this, there is no reason that little girl should ever have been allowed to be in his company. And that's where everybody around this little girl failed. They failed. She can't make those judgments. So there's a girl who can't make those judgments. She is 10, but she can't make those judgments about who is dangerous and who isn't dangerous, especially when the parents and her own aunt allow this guy, this 14-year-old, to go with her. So she's assuming the adults in this situation know better. They didn't, and they didn't protect her, and that just offends the living hell out of me, because I'm sorry, I don't believe this boy just woke up being one day just being a horrible human being. So I'm going to say he's had issues, and once somebody has issues, they shouldn't be around your kid. They shouldn't. Now maybe you weren't paying attention. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying you weren't paying attention to the safety of your own child, and you're willing to allow somebody in your family, because there's been people I know who I never let my kids around. I'm like, okay, I might invite them to dinner, but that's it. I have to be in the room with them, period, because they got some issues. I don't trust them. There are relatives didn't let my children go hang out at their house because I knew things. Okay. Now, they might have been nice people, but I also knew things, and they're like, you're not going there. You're just not, So I think that's really important. Anne says both of these kids had no luck, no good parenting. Her father and her aunt are brother, sister. Well, I don't know all the details yet on this. I haven't seen all of it yet, but it's sad. Here's the IRS thing. She says she's been unable to reach the IRS on phone. She gets a recording. They're all too busy. Yeah, that's the way it always works. And then you just spend hours of your life with the IRS. Lovely people. Anyway, I think I'm for the fair tax system where you just when you buy things, it just takes up whatever they need, and then you never have to file income tax. I think the income tax system in the United States is ridiculous. It's so difficult now that I have a master's degree, and I can't figure out half the time what the hell I'm supposed to write down. I feel sorry for anybody who doesn't even have the master's degree or a bachelor's degree or just, some financial ability. They're just screwed. I think this is, something shouldn't even be allowed in the United States. I think it's a criminal system. I think the IRS system is a criminal system. So that's why I can mention it here. Okay, I'm going to go to Benny now, because Benny wanted me to talk about this case. And it's going to be difficult to talk about. So I'm putting these two cases together because Karab says we got along fine before income taxes. I tell you, I think so many people working for the tax system that the tax system doesn't want it to go away, and they, but they obviously could just simply, just raise the taxes on purchases, and that would solve the problem. But they like their system, and I don't think in my lifetime it's going away. All right, so there's two murders I want to talk about: the murder of Sandra Scherer and the murder of Suzanne Capper. Okay, and I'm going to read a little from Wikipedia, but I'm going to put a link below. You can go read it yourself, because I really don't want to read what happened to these are two teenage girls that were brutally murdered and tortured. I do not want to read everything they did to them, because this is what Benny pointed out. He's like, this is what like really, like sparked one of the things that sparked his interest in crime, and he found this to be one of the most repulsive things he'd ever read, and kind of inexplicable on who would do this level of what they did. So I'll start out with Sandra Scherer. I will, as I say, it's grotesque, and even for me, I'm like, okay, that's enough. Can't read anymore. I mean, and I don't say that often. Sandra Scherer she was murdered in 1992. She was an American girl who was tortured and burned to death in Madison, Indiana, by 4 teenage girls. And this is one of the interesting things when you're talking about. First of all, people often think girls aren't violent, or they're not psychopathic. And they certainly wouldn't be that at that age. And the answer to that is sadly, sometimes yes. She was 12 years old at the time of her death. The incident attracted international attention due to both the brutality of the murder and the young age of the perpetrators, who were aged between 15 and 17 years old. Okay, so it was definitely covered by a bunch of stuff. Okay, so anyway, she was going to a Catholic school. She was going on the girls' basketball team. Her parents had been divorced, and her mother remarried, and they moved to Louisville. Okay, let's see, and then they moved again. Mother divorced again. They moved to New Albany, Indiana. All right. Certainly, I cannot go. It is a very long. They talk about each one of these people. I will give you what I'm going to tell you is just what the small bit about each person, which is important. The events prior to the murder. In 1990, 14-year-old Loveless. Okay, Loveless is a girl named Melinda Loveless. And they give a whole bunch about how crappy her background is, that she was abused and blah, blah, blah. And then she attacked some. Wait a minute, is that her? No. Okay, we got people being stabbed with knives. I got to figure out which one it is. It's very convoluted. So anyway, not a good family. Let's put it that way. The family sucked. Okay. So anyway, this 14-year-old Loveless girl begins dating another young girl named Amanda Heavrin. After Loveless's father left the family and her mother remarried, Loveless behaved erratically. She got into fights at school, reported being depressed, resulting in her getting professional counseling. And then she told her mother she was gay, and her mother was initially furious, but then accepted that, but the relationship she had with the girl deteriorated. Now, the same girl, her now ex-lover, met Sandra Scherer early in the fall semester at junior high school when they got into a fight. However, they became friends and later exchanged romantic letters. So now we have, this is turning into, I forgot the word, triangle. Triangle. Okay, between these girls. So they then went to a school dance together. This is the victim and this girl that she's now with. And after they found, okay, so she went to this school dance, and Loveless, like, oh my God, you two are together, so she confronted them. Although Heavrin and Loveless had never formally ended the relationship, Loveless started to date an older girl. Okay, so now she's got another girl. So then After Hebron and Scherer attended a festival together in October, Lovelace began discussing killing Scherer and threatened her in public. Concerned about the effects of their daughter's relationship with Hebron, Sharon's parents arranged for her to transfer to a Catholic school in late November. Hebron states she gave letters Lovelace sent her containing death threats toward Scherer to a youth prosecutor, but the youth prosecutor never did anything about it as far as she knows. Okay. Here we have again a case of a girl who's obviously seriously psychologically disturbed, possibly very psychopathic, and she's threatening to kill this girl. And it's not taken seriously by the girl's girlfriend, and her parents do move her out of the school. But the problem is, you can do that, but how far out away from these people are you? Okay? So then, what happens here? Okay. There's another person in here. This is the person who, interestingly, turns out to be the most vicious of all the girls. Her name was Lori Tackett. And she was, let's see, how old was she at this time? Tackett became increasingly rebellious after her 15th birthday and also became fascinated with the occult. She would often attempt to impress her friends by pretending to be possessed by the spirit of Diana the vampire. She began to engage in self-harm, and then, especially in early 1991, when she began dating a girl who was involved in the practice. Her parents discovered the self-mutilation and put her in a hospital. She got an antidepressant and was released. 2 days later, with her girlfriend and another one, Tackett cut her wrist deeply and was returned to the hospital. After the treatment of the wound, she was admitted to the psychiatric ward. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, you think, and confessed she had experienced hallucinations when she was young. Okay. She was discharged and she dropped out of school. She stayed with various friends. There she met Lovelace. The two became friends in late November. So now we had the problem of these two psycho girls meeting up, okay? And one psycho girl wanted the poor victim to be killed because she was pissed off that she got her girlfriend. And the other one just wanted to kill because she liked killing, okay? So she turns out to be the most vicious because she has sunk into this concept of just, there is a thing that happens, and I want to point out to people, this is not like you're joining a satanic cult. This has nothing to do with that. This has to do with somebody who hates society and then looks for something as egregious as they can come up with to attack society. The grossest, most grotesque, most unpleasant, playing in the dark side. The dark side's on their own mind, but dark side also usually includes violence and blood and death and all that kind of stuff. And of course, sometimes, if you look for satanic-y type things, where if you look for things that, you have slasher films with that vibe to it. You have lots of vampire films. You've got, all kinds of evil spirit kind of films, devil kinds of films, Satan worship kinds of films that encourage this. And if you have a teenager who has issues and you leave them to their own devices to watch any movie they want, to go on the internet and just suck up all this stuff, this becomes part of now their fantasy. Okay? It's their fantasy, and now they want to bring their fantasy to life because they hate society. So here she's got this opportunity. She's got a good friend now who wants to kill. Hey, works for me. So then what happened was, on the night of January 10th, 1992, Tackett, you see Tackett's got the car. They drove in Tackett's car. Tackett, Rippey, and Lawrence. These are two other girls who were brought into this. What was wrong with those girls? Let me see. Let's see. Rippey said she had a turbulent childhood, blah, blah, blah. And she hung out with Tackett. There you go. Lawrence, Tony Lawrence, she was friends with Rippey, the other girl from childhood. And she said she was abused at age 9 and raped when she was 14. And they had only been able to issue an order for her to keep away from the boy, to keep away from her. Okay. She became promiscuous, got involved in self-harm, and attempted suicide in the 8th grade. So we're talking about 4 girls who are completely messed up. 2 psychopathic, clearly to me, and 2 who maybe just very disturbed, horrible lives, and they'll join a gang, and those are the ones that didn't get the worst sentence because they just sort of were there, and they weren't really so much perpetrating as not stopping. All right, so then what happened was, okay, so they got together and they drove to Lovelace's house in New Albany, and then they borrowed some clothes, okay, and showed a knife. Oh, wait a minute. She showed him. So Lovelace goes, look, I have a knife. I'm going to share her with it. I'm going to scare her with it. And they arrived at Cher's house shortly before dark. Lovelace instructed Rippy and Lawrence to go to the door and introduce themselves as friends of Hebron, the girlfriend. All right? And then invite Cher to come with them to see Hebron, who was waiting for them at the Witch's Castle, a ruined stone house in an isolated area overlooking Ohio River. Cher said that she could not go because her parents were awake, and she told the girls to come back around midnight a few hours later. Okay, so they did return. They sure did. And they all left. Wait a minute, let's see how this worked out. Let's see. Eventually what happened was they got her in the car, and they went to the Witch's Castle. And then, let's say this. They bound her. They tortured her. They stabbed her. They put her in the trunk. They took her out of the trunk. They did things to her. Then they put her on fire. They drove to a gas station, bought gasoline, and set her on fire, and on and on. And it's worse than I'm even saying. It's way worse. So anyway, they got caught, so that's not an issue. And what happened to them? So the sentences were, Tackett and Lovelace were sentenced to 60 years. Thank God. Oh, what? Okay, Tackett. Oh my God. Okay, they were sentenced to 60 years in Indiana's women's prison. Tackett, the worst one of the group, the one that did the most violence and torture of the group, was released in 2018 and served probation for 1 year. How sweet. Lovelace was released in 2019, so the worst of the two are out. Rippy was sentenced to 60 years with 10 years suspended for mitigating circumstances. She was only sentenced to a maximum of 20 years. What happened to the other one? One got 10 and one got 20. Okay, the other girls, I get it. They didn't know. They were just like, they were along for the ride. Let's put it that way. So Lovelace's attorney said she had been profoundly retarded by childhood abuse, really profoundly retarded. And then they did the plea bargains and all that kind of crap. But now they're out. Isn't that nice? Okay. So she was released after serving 9 years. Oh, no, that was Lawrence. Wait a minute. Okay. So Tackett was released. She served 26 years. Lovelace served 26 years. 26 years was not enough for those two. What they did to that young girl, again, is so psychopathic and so vicious and violent, they don't deserve to see the light of day again. But now they're out because now they're cured, I guess, and there's excuses for why they're the way they were. But people have trouble, especially with women, giving them full sentences because they say, well, they were sexually abused or they were this or they were that. And yeah, their lives may not have been perfect, but once you've crossed the line into violent psychopathy where you don't have any respect for life, where you could take an innocent person and torture them for as horrifying as this was for hours and hours and hours and hours in the most vicious ways possible. I'm sorry. I just don't understand why you'd see the light of day again. I don't. But because they're girls, they often get off easier than boys do. Yeah, they do. All right, so that's the one story. And the other one is, because this is so similar in the sense of, which when you talk about group crimes, they're usually, when you get a group of psychopaths together, the level of viciousness escalates. The level of sadism escalates because they egg each other on and they seem to enjoy the fact that, oh, look what we're doing. Oh, look, that person screaming, isn't that cool? And everybody laughs because somehow, all together, they don't view that person as worthy of anything and they think it's absolutely enjoyable to watch them suffer. And in a group, they can become extraordinarily dangerous. And in this other case, This is the murder of Suzanne Capper. She was murdered in Manchester, England in December of 1992. It's not the same year. This is a bad year. Let me tell you, a bad year. She was 16 years old. She had multiple organ failure. Right. Oh, hold on one second. Hello? Open the door. Somebody's knocking on my door. Hold on one second. Gotta find out who it is. Coming back. Okay. Well, that was a package being delivered by UPS, and it's not even for me. Oh, okay. Not even for me. It's for the next door. Yeah, it's the IRS. It's the IRS. No, they're not after me yet with the warrants. No, I think I'm safe for a little while. Oh my God. No, just a package not for me. So today I get a package not for me and an IRS letter that is for me. Just some days. Okay, so anyway, this girl, she was also lit on fire. So I know it was a lit on fire year. And she had 80% burns on her body. She had been kidnapped and kept prisoner for 7 days in a house in Manchester. Or Manchester, got that right? Where she was beaten and tortured. So, yeah, torture and murder arose from a avenging of trivial grievances, a sexual insult, infection with public lice, and the loss of a pink duffel. Sorry, pink duffel coat. Now, all these things, what they say, this is the reason, it's all a big fat lie. You know, psychopaths love to come up with reasons that blame the victim. She insulted me. She did this. She did that. No, they wanted to torture her because it was fun. That's it. Detectives conducting the inquiry said that for sheer mindless brutality, the crime ranked along the torture inflicted on children in the Moors murders. It went to trial in 1993. Didn't get much publicity. Interesting. Okay. So anyway, let's see what happened to this girl. What happened to her? So what led to the murder? I just want to point out, we're talking about, unfortunately, a lot of bad situations for, like Capper herself, a gentle and easily influenced girl. That's what she is called. Let's see. Okay, so wait a minute. Okay, so Capper started becoming truant from school, and her attendance was erratic. She spent more time at this person's house called Powell, where she was dealt drugs and involved in the handling of stolen motor vehicles. She briefly lived with Powell, and who is Powell? It's one of the creatures that killed her, and I'll have to find out who that is in a minute. And then moved out because she didn't like the evil new friends. Yep. Okay, I'm pretty sure if you were already involved in drugs and stolen cars, your friend that you were with, Powell, is evil too. But now there's more evil friends. And so then this continued. Capper stayed with somebody else, and then she still hung around them and got bullied. Her sister said it was not that she was scared of them, it's just she would do anything for them. She did, pampered their every whim. Oh Lord. So anyway, it just goes on and on and on. She's then kidnapped. The reasons they gave her for kidnapping is that Capper had tried to persuade her to sleep with a man for money. Sure. Okay. A teen asked you to sleep with a man for money, so you decide you're going to abduct and kill her. A guy named Dudson said he got public lice and had his pubic hair shaved, and he thought he got it from Capper, so she deserved that. Let's see. That's all the other reasons. Okay, we don't know what all the other reasons are. Anyway, they kidnapped her, they kept her someplace, and they tortured her. And I won't even... The torture of the other girl was horrible. This is more horrible. I mean, absolutely even more horrible. And for more days. Just unbelievable. So I won't get into all that. At any rate... these were not all teens that they were actually 6 people involved. That's a lot. They convicted one for 25 years, one for 25 years, 25 years, 12 years, 18 years, 15 years. Yeah, they pretty much, they got pretty much nailed for it. But again, I want to point out the two things in this. One is the family is absent in being good, having good parenting to make sure their child is safe, doing the right things, hanging around the right people. You know, when your child is 14 years old, that doesn't mean they should go hang out with everybody. You know, you're people go, oh, they're just teens. No, teens are your responsibility too. It's your responsibility to raise the children well, so as they get into their teen years, they don't become troubled, that they don't become, they pick up on, quote, the wrong crowd, that they don't hook up with, quote, evil people, and they don't start doing bad things and thinking these things are okay, and then the people around them are dangerous. It's really, that's up to, what is that sound? Oh my God. My cat's over here going shh with a tuna can. You hear that? You know, it's like finished tuna in the tuna can, and now it's spinning the tuna can, and I can hear it over here. So it's just, I find these two cases appalling in the sense that, these teen girls are raised in a situations that weren't good, and they weren't protected, and then they hooked up with really bad people. And then we had the group gang type of thing where enough evil people get together and they find torturing and killing amusing to the whole group. And this was even worse than the U.S. case, but I just thought that was a really, really, both of them are terribly sad cases. But it goes to show that you A, have to be vigilant over your kids, and B, when evil people get together, they become even more dangerous than when they're alone. And it was pretty awful. All right, what else do I want to talk about today? Because that's just such a gruesome case. It's just like, okay. So I have to look at my thing where I said what I was going. Oh, this is a really interesting one. This is the murder of Zahra Abrahizadah. Wait a minute, Zahra Abrahizadah. Zahra Abrahizadah. I want to say it correctly. She was murdered in 2010 in Adelaide, Australia, in front of 300 people. 300 people in the convention center. Her estranged husband came in and killed her. And this goes to show, there's a couple things this goes to show, which is why I want to point this out. Let me pull up the general story. And it's a really sad story of a man who was here we go. The man who was, he stabbed his wife to death in front of 300 witnesses and will serve at least 26 years in jail. Okay. He's 57 at the time. He murdered his wife, Zarah, in the Adelaide Convention Center in 2010. And it was stated by the prosecutor that his crime was a final act of control when Zarah had moved to divorce him after 20 years of violence. 20 years of violence. For years, he had used his anger, his fists, his feet, and his belt to punish and control his wife, and at times his family. Just absolutely horrible. And when he lost control of the family and lost control of her, he hunted her down to make her pay because she had the audacity to leave. And he had very strict rules and was beaten up. Everybody was whipped by the belts, the son, the sisters, the mom. He was very well respected in the community, and people would say, your father is a gentleman, which goes to show you don't know what goes on behind those closed doors. And so, in 2007, he admitted having another wife. And in 2009, he became so angry during an argument, he went looking for a knife. My father was shouting, I will kill you all. And it's amazing that I didn't kill the entire family. I just can't live like this anymore. This is a prison. He thinks he's living in a prison because he has to take care of these people, but his wife is the one, and the children are living in the prison. I will burn the house down. I will kill you all. The eldest daughter said that when she bit her nails, he would burn her fingers. When she talked to boys, he broke a cordless phone antenna across her neck and whipped her with a belt and smothered her with a pillow. And he said, I would rather kill you and go to jail than have you ruin my reputation. Oh boy. At any rate, I want to point out this one thing here. So now he said this is now I just think it's interesting what he says. He fought back tears as he described how the couple's relationship faltered when they moved their family from Australia to Australia from Iran. After my family became independent and they became Australian citizens and they were collecting money from someplace, my wife changed. She used to promise to do things and never did. Other people influenced her and she broke her promises. She was involved with bad women. He denied having any affair. And then now he said, he denied murdering his wife, but he did stab her because he was having hallucinations. Sure. Okay. And of course, what happened was, I just want to point out the reason this happened. She had put out a protection order against him. You know that piece of paper that's completely freaking useless? I mean, the paper is good in the sense that it just proves that you're asking them to stay away. And if they're not homicidal, then they can at least be taken off. But if you got somebody you really believe is homicidal, that piece of paper is worthless. It's just a piece of paper. A piece of paper does not protect you. It doesn't. It doesn't do anything to protect you. It's a piece of paper. If you think a piece of paper, oh my gosh, that's protecting me, you're insane. And she thought because she went to an area with a lot of people that she would also be safe. But again, when somebody wants you dead, they'll make you dead. It doesn't matter who you're with. They'll take people out with you if necessary. They'll make you dead. So that is the problem with this kind of situation. And I've had people ask me, what should they do in a situation like this? And I honestly, there's only two things I can ever recommend, and I'm not saying they're great, but there's only two things. One is disappear. I mean, that to me is the number one choice. Disappear. It's not fair. People go, well, that's not fair. Why should I have to disappear and he has his normal life? Well, it all depends whether you think he's going to kill you. That's it. Is he going to kill you? If the answer is yes, then disappearing might be the choice you have. And it's sad. It's horrible. But you might have to move to another country. Move someplace and change your name. You might have to cut off, certain contact with people. It's horrible. It's not fair. I'm just going to say. It might be the only thing that'll save your life. And the only other thing is that you have to fight violence with violence, maybe. You have to, if you think they're going to break into your house, you've got to do what you can to protect yourself from him breaking into your house. You have to have good systems, good locks. You have to have big, whatever you got to do. Big dogs, a big gun in your bedroom, lock your bedroom door and have a gun by your bedside. You really have to fight like that. Unless because and even then, once you leave your house, you're on the road. You walk to your car. You get in your car. You're driving down the road. Doesn't mean he can't shoot you in your car. He can't shoot you on the way into the office building. That's the kind of thing. And in court, people have been killed in court, or in the courtroom parking lot. They're on their way to get their divorce and they're stabbed to death in the parking lot. So when somebody wants you dead, you have to know the difference between somebody who's just annoying and you like them to stay away and somebody who wants you dead. Because if they really want you dead, you got to take it seriously. And I'm not saying what your choice would be. I'm just saying that it's amazing what they'll do. And even to the point where this guy was willing to go to prison the rest of his life just because she couldn't win. It's just horrible. He sounds very controlling, and the only thing she could do was, like you say, to disappear. Yeah, it's really sad because I think she thought after they written the divorce thing, she's separating from him, he would somehow get over it, get used to it, accept it. And we're talking about, again, people don't want to put the word psychopath, but that man was a psychopath. The viciousness he showed toward his family, the massive control he showed, is psychopathy. And that means those kids and that wife were to be useful to him and were to prop him up as a man of the community, as he had that reputation. Those children, he was willing to hurt them and hurt their mother in front of them and hurt, and she, as he pointed out, she stopped doing all this stuff for me. In other words, she wasn't a 100% perfect servant. She was useless. And God knows what his concept of being a servant was. And I'm going to say she probably could not keep up with his his demands. No matter what she did, it would never be enough. That's psychopathy, and very, very dangerous. And it's just a real sad ending, because I guess she thought maybe I can be free of this guy. And the answer to that was not so much. Here's something I wanted to just mention today, which was, what is the difference between asocial and antisocial? And I thought this was just kind of cool, because we hear those terms, tossed around. What is the difference? What are they? When somebody, he's asocial, he's antisocial. Antisocial is very different from asocial. Is very different from antisocial. So asocial means that you're not very social. You're just not comfortable around a lot of people. Autism comes under that spectrum of, of not being too comfortable around people. You're asocial. You just don't really, feel, it doesn't work for you too well to be around people. It doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you're dangerous. It just means you just don't connect well, and you don't feel comfortable. Antisocial means exactly what it means. Anti-society. And that's the thing about psychopaths. They're antisocial. And they can be social. This is what's funny. They actually can be very social people, going around chatting with people and all that stuff. I think maybe antisocial is a bad term. It should be anti-society, not antisocial. So they need to fix that. I don't like it, because they can be very social. Especially the psychopaths, who they call sociopaths, same thing, who just are more fun to be around. And so they may be, I just did the whole thing on Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile was extremely social. He liked being around people all the time. But he had some issues there. And, so the question is, what was his issues that he would do things to people in such a horrific way to the teens that he assaulted? Was he anti-society? He did a lot for society, but on the other hand, did he feel separate from society to the point where he really kind of wanted to get back at him? And serial killers are definitely anti-society. They like to kill people because it gets back at the society that doesn't accept them, who doesn't give them what they want. They feel like failures, a lot of them. So Jimmy Savile doesn't really is not really in that category of he's a failure, but he was an odd one. But for serial killers, majority of them feel like failures, even in their own minds. Even if they're successful in certain ways, they're still failures. It's like, you don't recognize me enough. You need to do more for me, and you haven't, and therefore, I'm going to kill your daughters. I'm going to kill your children. I'm going to do whatever horrible things I can do to you, because that's my rage against society, and now I can beat you at your own game. Yes, I didn't like the game anyway. I never got the right cards. I rolled the wrong dice. You always thought I was going to lose. Well, I'm going to win now. So, anti-society would be a better choice of wording than antisocial. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. So that's my opinion on that. Let's see. I forgot what this is. Let's see if I have anything left I was going to talk about. Okay. This is just a fun one, because this is one of these. There's a thing on the internet. It's called "Am I an A-hole?" And then people write in these different things that people accuse them of being a-holes, and the question is, are they a-hole? And this was kind of an interesting one. I want to get your opinion on it. Let me find it. Oh, here we go. Woman refuses. Let me just answer this question. If you whittle it down, psychopathy equals rage. Yes. I think psychopathy has two major points to it. One is attachment disorder. Attachment disorder being that you do not attach to other people very well. You feel separated from them. But you also have rage because you are separated from them, because you feel like you, even as a baby or a child, that you didn't get what you needed, and then you're angry because you don't know how to get those things. And, you just don't know how to play the game right to get what you want. And so you start feeling angry toward everyone. Don't ever believe that psychopaths actually love their families. They don't. And they don't necessarily love their mothers either, even if they claim they do. Because mommy is the one that's usually a sucker. She'll give you a house. She'll give you money, a place to come back to when you get out of prison, a place to come when you lose your job. So you're useful. You're useful as a mother if you're a sucker. So it doesn't mean he loves the mother. He just finds her useful. Female relatives are often very useful to psychopaths. They like to take to talk about that. You're asking if Brent Turvey's book goes into this. I don't think so. I have to look back at the book. I'm going to recommend Brent Turvey's book on profiling. He's got a number of different books, and I find them very good educational tools. I don't remember if he goes into that at all. I think that the concept of a psychopath being enraged to society is underplayed and not even understood by a lot of psychologists. That's just from all my work that I've seen over the years. Rage is the number one thing I come up with, because you have to, there is the element of fun. So if you're a serial killer, for example, and why do you do what you do? Well, part of it's because it makes you feel good. If you get to rape and kill a woman, you get to feel like God. That's what Ted Bundy said. I feel like God when I see the breath go out of her, and her eyes go lifeless, and I'm choking her. Hey, it feels good to me. I'm God. But God is above society. You see how that works. So, but to be able to do that, of course, shows a lack of empathy completely, high level of narcissism, and the fact that you get fun out of doing that, enjoyment out of doing that, is because you hate society, or you would never do these kind of things. You would get to the point where you say, it's like a psychopath like that hates people. He hates other people because other people win, and he does not feel like he has won. Society is winning, and he's not winning. And the similarity here would be something we talk about with borderline personality disorders. Borderline personality disorder is a high level of narcissism, which it could be borderlining psychopathy. But what happens is it's like a big hole. The person has a big hole, and no matter how much you shovel into the hole, it never fills up. That person is literally the one that says the glass is half empty. As a matter of fact, my glass is empty, not even half. My glass is empty, and you should be filling it up. But then when a person fills it up, it's never enough. So a wife can never please a husband with borderline personality disorder. A child can never please a parent with borderline personality disorder. Doesn't work that way. A man can't please his wife who has borderline personality disorder. No matter what he does, it's never enough. So it's a high level of narcissism that just cannot be satisfied. Psychopathy, I think at that point they've just given up on the total end of it. Like serial killers, like, yeah, I'm not even going to ask you to fill up that damn hole anymore. I'm just going to hit you over the head with a shovel. Oh my goodness. How does it lead to murder? Attachment disorder, Lisa, doesn't lead to murder. It leads to a personality issue, a loss of something in early years where you don't get the love and affection, and you can't depend on the people around you, like especially mothers who might, instead of, a mother's supposed to be picking up her baby and giggling with it and nursing it and all this stuff, like whenever it's hungry it nurses. But if you just leave a baby in a crib and ignore it, we see that happened in the Russian orphanages, which kind of created a lot of children psychopaths who then people adopted and wanted to send back because they were abandoned in those cribs. And then they didn't trust anybody after that because they didn't get nurtured. They didn't get what they needed. And so they became distrustful. And then, then you start saying, well, if I do things the right way, it doesn't work. So what if I change the rules and do it a different way? If I lie, if I manipulate, all these things start working. And then if you add to that a level of rage over the years and anger, You can't say one thing or a bunch of things turn somebody into a serial killer. It doesn't work like that. It works. It's like I can only say it's like a tornado. That you have to get all these elements together, and then you're like, oh man, that's going to destroy us. And I don't think we've ever figured it out. The best we can do is provide the most nurturing home life, the most nurturing community, be aware of what's going on so that we can try to stop it in its tracks if it's there. And then we have to have a good law enforcement system that once you created one of these creatures are created, we stop them before they harm 20 other people and kill them, who didn't have this disorder, So, yeah, it is that. It's a perfect storm. That's what it is. And it's, very, very sad. But let me get back to the women one. This one's just fun. So, woman refuses to help her parents going through a financial crisis because she was disowned by them 9 years ago. All right. So it says here, what happened here? All right. She says she wanted to go to a normal college, but her parents insisted she go to a Christian college. All right. So we're not going to get into the religious aspect here, but they were trying to, I think, make sure that she went someplace they thought she would have a healthy education. She'd be safe from, what they believed. Anyway, she refused their idea and went to normal college. And because she did that, her parents stopped paying her college tuition. Now, first of all, be aware. She's telling the story. Her parents are not giving any information here. We don't know what the truth is on any of this. They could have said, look, we want you in the safe place and we'll pay for the whole thing. And she's like, no, I want to go to the University of California. I want to go to wherever. And they're like, first of all, it's too expensive. We can't afford it. And, maybe, okay, well, we'll make a deal. What about if you go to community college near the house and then we'll think about it. And she's like, I'm not going to do that. We don't know what actually the truth is here. So just keep that in mind. So after struggling for a couple of months, a friend told me that a strip club that she was working at was hiring. Okay. So then it gets more interesting. I have been dancing my whole life. Okay. Dancing and strip club are two entirely different things. Yes, it helps to have good movement. One has clothes, one does not have clothes. And I have a pretty good figure, so I was hired pretty fast. That is accurate. If a young girl goes to a strip club and she looks good and can dance, they'll throw you out there on the old pole. Now, here it gets more interesting. A few months in, I dropped out of college because I was making serious money. Oh, so you really didn't want to go to college to get a good career, to learn maybe to become a teacher or a nurse or any kind of healthy career. You weren't interested in that. You just wanted to make a bunch of cash. Now, and then check this out. About $3,000 for a bad week and up to $11,000 for a good one. You do not make $11,000 a week at a strip club. You make $11,000 a week if you are a highly paid prostitute, a call girl. So either she's lying like a dog about how much money she makes. But even if she made $3,000 a week, I'm still going to say she's prostituting because strip clubs, people will tell you differently because they're going to lie to you. And this again is in my book, How to Save Your Daughter's Life, because a lot of girls actually think, and they will tell other people, oh, all I do is dance and I get money. No, you don't, because the club owner is nothing but a pimp. And he wants the girls in his club to bring the men in. What brings the men in isn't just looking at the girls dancing. It's that after hours, they will then prostitute themselves. And therefore, that's why the men come there. The guy that owns the place is nothing but a pimp. Girls who work in these places are almost 100% prostitutes. And if they don't prostitute, they will lose their job. That's the way it works. So basically, she's prostituting. All right. When my parents found out, they disowned me. The same goes for all of my extended family except for 2 cousins. So obviously this was a Christian family whose daughter refused to go to Christian school. Then she refused to even go to college and is instead supporting herself with prostitution in a very, very visual way. I think they were very uncomfortable with this and were embarrassed by it. So she became unwanted in the family. Fast forward 9 years. I own my house outright, a Tesla, don't have debt. I also own an apartment building that I rent. Because she says stripping has a short lifespan. No, prostitution has a short lifespan. At a certain point, you just can't make the money you're going to make. And investments. Anyway, she says right now her financial condition is really good. She's earning from various sources and she owns the house. She's perfectly happy to help her parents, but she doesn't want to do so because of the treatment they gave her when she was younger. All right, so basically the parents said this, that she was earning her money from sinning, and that's why they weren't comfortable with having anything to do with her. But now that they're bankrupt and struggling with serious health issues, she says, I don't have parents anymore, and furthermore, according to their religion and church, my money was earned while sinning, so to use it is also to damn your soul to hell. And then the parents start crying and saying they don't know what's wrong with her. So she gave them a taste of their own medicine by telling her parents to help themselves. So, and that's it. So then she says at the end, which I think is funny too, but now a couple of weeks later, I'm starting to feel like I'm an a-hole to them because a month's income from stripping, oh, you're still in prostitution. So she has been in prostitution for almost a decade. I'm going to say she's probably pretty high end on most of this. Would make a really big change for them, but I won't even miss it that bad. So what do you think? Am I an asshole? So now Gretchen says, I don't condone what you did, but disowning your child is not very Christian. And that may be. Sounds like they all need therapy. Yeah. Well, she was first of all, prostitution is against the law, by the way, at least in this country, and in their religion, it's pretty horrific for her to be involved in this. Not in a desperation situation, but as a chosen profession, and that went on for years. I can see why they were entirely uncomfortable. And when she says disown, I don't know what disown means. Disown may simply be, we can't have you coming around. We don't want you around other children, and when you're prostituting, we don't want you around other kids in the family. We are embarrassed to be seen with you because men say, oh my God, isn't that your daughter who dances in that club and prostitutes herself? I mean, I personally can support that they shouldn't have to spend time with her or have her around while she's doing this. I totally think that's reasonable. If she wants to do something that is completely against her family's beliefs and is embarrassing to them and humiliating and everything else, I think she should say, I want to live a completely separate life, so yeah, I'll walk away. Now, having said that, this is an interesting point. I think despite it all, she should help her parents. So I find that kind of interesting. We have this problem sometimes with, what do you do with a parent who is vicious towards you? Let's say your mother is like Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Your mother's a psychopath, and she has treated you dismally all your life. She's tortured you. She's, all these kind of things she's done. Then she gets older, and she's like, you should help me. The question is, should you help that person when they are first psychopathic and have mistreated you for all those years? And that's an interesting concept. Do you deserve help when you've been evil to that person? And I personally say no. I think if you have a parent who's a psychopath or a kid who's a psychopath, you don't have to support them. They're doing whatever they're doing. They've chosen to do their evil ways. You don't have to support them. You don't have to let them live with you. You don't have to pay for things. You don't have to pay for their drug treatments or whatever else. You don't have to do it. You don't. In reverse, I agree with her, the prostitute, that if the parents believe her money is made by sinning, they have no business asking her for it. Because if they're going to excommunicate her for her behaviors, they should not profit from her behaviors either. So I think she's messed up. I think she's not telling the truth that she's a prostitute. I think that she's made whatever choice she's made in life. I understand why her parents don't want to support it, but you can't have it both ways. I don't think you have the right to come back and get money from the person you think is earning that money evilly. Same thing with drugs. Let's say it's not prostitution. Let's say your son's involved in drugs, and he's become a drug kingpin, and you're like, I'm not going to have anything to do with you. You do excommunicate him from the family. Doesn't mean you wouldn't let him back in, but hey, as long as you're doing drugs, I know you're killing children on the street with those poison you're selling, and you're hanging around evil people who are getting, and there's murders going on. I'm not having you in my life, and you're not going to be around any of my kids. See how that's easier with the male thing than the female? See, for some reason we can see that more than with the females. I'm not having you around my family. Okay, so time goes on. You have that 10-year separation, and then you're struggling and struggling. Do you think you should go to the drug kingpin's son and say, okay, we didn't want to have anything to do with you for 10 years, and you're still making your money through crime, but now we want some of it? No. I mean, I find that amazing. I find it amazing, absolutely amazing. Says, I'm not a stripper or a prostitute, but I know how it feels to have one's mother disowned. Well, if you're, it's not a good feeling. But one has to always ask, am I being disowned for wrong reasons, or am I being disowned and never allowed back for reasonable reasons? So that, that's the issue there. So, I do think, sometimes, I've told my own kids, I say, like, if you're a serial killer, I am disowning you. I have, if you go out and start murdering people, I'm done with you. I'm done. I'm not coming to prison. I'm not providing a lawyer. I'm done. You're a murderer, and and in the afterlife, wherever you're going to be, I leave that up to somebody else, not myself. But the child I raised that I wanted to, had great hope for, if you've turned into a murderous, horrible human being, I'm kind of let you go. And if you're going to be, maybe you're not a murderer, but if your behaviors are such that I'm uncomfortable around them, I don't want my family around them, then I think you have the right for separation. Now, if that person changes their lifestyle years later and says, let's say a person is involved in drugs and drug dealing, and you're like, okay, you can't come around. You cannot come around. And 10 years later, they've gotten rehab and all that stuff, and they're working a proper job, and they've turned their lives around. Well, then I do think you should have open arms and bring that person back. That would be a right and kind thing to do, because that person has indeed, changed their behavior, and I believe in second chances. I do, totally. So Gretchen says, I'm not sure if it's male or female. I think the drug world has dangers attached that perhaps a stripper situation may not have. That's never true. Understand, prostitute is a woman who sleeps with a whole lot of married men. Right there's a problem. It's not okay. It's not okay to provide sexual services in that sense that destroy marriages. They lure people into things like that. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in prostitution which is absolutely egregious, along with grooming other people to come into prostitution. She said her friend brought her into prostitution. Yes, her friend did that. Her friend was doing something that was not healthy and illegal and not good for the community. And then she invited her friend in because she lured her with the money. Same thing done with drugs. There's a lot of problems with prostitution. That even expands into child prostitution. It expands into sex trafficking. It expands into a lot of stuff, because we think that there's levels. Oh, if you're a high-end prostitute, not such a bad deal. Not such a big deal. If you're a low-end prostitute, well, then it's because you need drugs, so you're giving sex for drugs, so that's okay. I think it's really, really messy. So, so I think, I just think it was an interesting thing where I say I tend to agree with her that her parents shouldn't be asking for her money. I just think that's where I come on. I'm like, hey, if the parents were opposed to it, they have that right. But I don't know how they're going to turn around and say we want the money that you earn from the very thing we disowned you with. I find that kind of strange, really, really strange. By the way, I will be doing, this Sunday coming up, I'm doing a double Brazil show. Okay, I'm going to be doing on Sunday, let me see what my double Brazil show is. I'm going to do, let me get the names right here. Lisa S., right? You brought this to me because it's a Netflix movie, a Netflix documentary, and it is called, let me find it. Here we go. It's called Once Upon a Crime, and it's Elise Matsunaga. It takes place in Brazil. Elise Matsunaga shot her husband and was convicted, and this whole show is about why. No, there's no question she shot him. The question is, was it self-defense? Was it a passion crime? Was it premeditated for his money? What really happened here? It's a 4-part series, which I have to say is really kind of dull, and they really waste a lot of time with nonsense. But I'm going to discuss what I believe the evidence shows as to why she did it. And on the same one, because it's not that, I don't have to prove that she did it. So that's going to be, I don't need a huge amount of time for that, because I don't have to prove the case. But the other case I'm going to add to that is, and this ought to be, okay, this one is called, what's his name? Okay, hold on. Oh, here it is. Okay, Gatti. His name is Arturo Gatti. He was a really good boxer, and he ended up dead in a hotel in Brazil with his wife. In the first day she was brought in, and they said it was a homicide. Then they changed it to suicide. He supposedly hung himself. Then she got out, and it was ruled a suicide. And most of his family believes that she murdered him. And so they're pushing for that. They got some really big people in the United States to do half a year's worth of hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of work to try to prove that it's a homicide. I think Baden was involved in that with the autopsy. So there's a lot of people trying to prove she really killed him. So the question is, yes or no? So I'm going to do both of these ladies. One we know killed her husband, but why? And the other one, it's questioning whether she killed her husband. And if she did, why? And if she didn't, why not? Okay? So I'm going to do both of those. So they're both Brazilian cases, which is kind of interesting. And so I found them both very interesting. And so I think that's going to be a fun Sunday. So it's Brazil Sunday. And I think that I've covered, I covered everything I said I was going to talk about. Let me see if there's anything I left out. Okay. Nope, I think that is actually it. Sometimes I forget things and then I come back and go, oh, last week. But there's always just an amazing amount of news. And again, if you find any sites that link me to Melissa Lucio and her execution, what evidence was there? If you could link me to anything with real evidence as opposed to the Innocence Project's viewpoint on it, I would enjoy that. So, oh my God, maybe not. I'm not even going to read that. Yeah. But if you know anything for Lucio, do give me the links, because I want to analyze that case, and I just can't come up with anything useful. So, and I say you can't trust just the defense. So, anyway, I'm glad you were here, and everybody have a great evening. Absolutely. And again, if you're new to the show and you made it all the way through, do at least subscribe to the channel to support it. Like this video, hit the bell for future, that you'll find out about the next show. And all my shows are open to the public. Just because you can't come to the live if you're not part of Patreon doesn't mean you can't see the show. And you can always comment below as well. So anyway, what about that? Are you going to talk about the TV show you just did? It's not out yet. I mean, I did the interview. I went down to Knoxville, Tennessee, and I did the interview for the show. And they have not told me when it's going to be out. I've done 2 interviews for 2 different television productions. actually both on the same serial killer, interesting enough. And but I don't know when either one of them are coming out. So we'll find that out at some point. Maybe I won't. Maybe you're going to tell me like, oh, Pat, I saw you on TV last night. And I'm like, really? Wish they'd told me. So I really don't know. What? A movie version of The Staircase coming out in May. Oh my God. I wonder what they're going to say. What they're going to come up with, though. That's interesting. Anyway, see you Sunday, Molly. And absolutely, Martin, go to sleep, Martin. Oh no, it's not that late. It's okay. This is the early show. It's the UK show. I call it the UK show. That means people from the UK and Europe can show up and not be asleep. So, bye, Florence. Anyway, so I will see you. I will definitely see you all on Sunday. Bye, Lisa. Let me see. Wait a minute. Trying to end the show, but I can't make things work. So anyway, let me try now. Bye.